Oh! Hey fellow film fans, today I'll be reviewing the 1998 film Afterlife, which was written and directed by Hirokazu Kore-eda and released on Blu-ray by the Criterion Collection. This is released in 2021 and it's a special edition. The packaging is on the simple side, no slipcase or anything like that, but it does have a booklet with stills from the movie and an essay by novelist Viet Thanh Nguyen. This release features a new 2K digital restoration by TV Man Union in Japan, approved by Kore-eda himself. The picture is excellent, especially considering the extensive use of natural lighting in the film, which I'll talk more about later. It has a remastered uncompressed mono soundtrack, which is also excellent. I always appreciate when they provide the original format of the soundtrack, and Criterion's mono soundtracks are usually great. This one's no exception. Aside from the booklet and essay, the disc has a new audio commentary from film scholar Linda Ehrlich. She seems to be an expert in world cinema and Asian cinema and culture in particular. She's written several books on directors from across the globe, including one on Kore-eda. She said in an interview she'll watch a movie 10 times while taking notes and writing a commentary, and that thoroughness shows. She's insightful and certainly knowledgeable, but with absolutely no pretense. She knows when to pause her commentary and let us hear a particular exchange of dialogue or absorb a scene, and will effortlessly reference other Kore-eda movies to point out a consistency in his style or a callback of his own. My general preference as a nerd is to get more into the technical aspects of how an idea came about and was executed, but as far as scholarly commentaries, this one's as good as it gets. The disc also has new interviews with Kore-eda and cinematographers Masayoshi Sukida and Yutaka Yamazaki, and of course the theatrical trailer and deleted scenes. Now for the movie itself, and this review will contain spoilers as always. The idea for Kore-eda's Afterlife is as unassuming as its bare-bones production. What if you could take one memory with you to the afterlife? It could be any memory you choose, but just that one memory. While this may conjure images of heavenly spectacle, Kore-eda takes a different approach, exploring this premise with as little fanfare as possible. The setting, which doesn't change save for one sequence, is a single rundown building, an abandoned school perhaps, and its surrounding overgrown property. The newly departed's first stop after dying is at this way station of sorts. They walk in through the misty, blown-out light of the building's open double doors and are eventually greeted by a group of workers whose job it is to explain this process, then spend the next week walking them through it. They decide on a memory, the workers gather as much detail as possible, then by the end of the week, they produce a short film recreating that memory. The departed close out their last week in limbo viewing the film versions of their memories, then off they go to eternity, memory in hand. Kore-eda uses natural light during the day and desk lamps and other ambient sources at night. He doesn't employ a soundtrack. The spare camera movements are logical, utilitarian, and handheld. The result is the look and feel of a documentary, which is not by accident. Prior to Afterlife, Kore-eda had made several documentaries, including Without Memory, about a man with no short-term memory.
Do I know this guy? He seems to know me.
What the fuck?
In preparing for Afterlife, he interviewed nearly 500 people from retirement homes, temples, etc. Originally planning to use their stories for inspiration, Kore-eda, in a truly inspired move, chose to use some of the interviewees themselves and their stories in the picture along with professional actors. On the flip side, Kore-eda also let the pros go off script and use their own memories and experiences instead of what he'd written. Like Nomadland, we don't always know who's an actor and who's not, what's scripted and what's not.
One of the things I love most about this life is that there's no final goodbye.
This creates a wondrous blend of documentary and feature filmmaking with everything feeling closer to home. It could be our friend or relative or former lover sharing their memory, or it could be us. Indeed, as soon as we learn of the premise, we can't help but ponder that question for ourselves. I continually found myself missing a line of dialogue or intricate detail because I'd gotten lost in my own thoughts, weighing the value of different memories or even wondering if I had enough good ones. I also found myself thinking about the definition of memory and its limits. Most people would probably choose a memory that involves an experience with another person, but how could it retain its importance? How could that person be significant if we don't remember anything of that person outside of this one moment? How do we even know who they were? But that's on us. Kore-eda himself offers nothing with which to distract us. In true Yoshijiro Ozu fashion, the minimalist filmmaking allows us to focus on the characters without being distracted by the production itself or even Kore-eda's own philosophies. He lets us absorb the stories without weighing us down with pontifications or soliloquies, just formerly and seemingly real people trying to work through the meaning of their lives and what's most important to them. I was reminded of Saving Private Ryan, another movie premised on a philosophical question. That was bogged down at times by speeches from characters who seemed like nothing more than stand-ins for their given perspectives.
You know, if going to Ramel and finding him so he can go home, if that earns me the right to get back to my wife, well then that's my mission.
How much better would that movie have been if Steven Spielberg didn't hold our hands while he guided us down his philosophical roadmap? Kore-eda doesn't do any of that, thankfully leaving the thinking to us. But I digress. The workers themselves treat this more or less like any other job. They have meetings, quibbles, frustrations, deadlines. Some are here as a way to hang on to their former lives, some because they couldn't make the difficult choice when they themselves first died. This makes them more tragic than the recently departed they're helping because they truly are in limbo, with an outside world growing up just beyond their reach. In the one sequence to relieve the school grounds, one of the workers, a young woman in her late teens, is walking through Tokyo taking pictures from one of her departed's memories. Of course, she's also taking abstract pictures of things like park benches because that's what young photographers do. Kore-eda also shows her in front of a clock tower that lights up and morphs into a music box. The chimes are fitting for a young girl, and they play in the background as she continues walking among the living, driving home not only her isolation, but that of her co-workers as well. As absorbing as Afterlife is, Kore-eda waits until the second half to find the true emotional anchor, when a worker learns of a connection he has to the departed he's shepherding. This gives his former life new meaning and poses yet another question in the process. What if we focus less on our best memories and thought instead of how we might be part of someone else's, on what effect we have on others? Kore-eda's latest film was the terrific and devastating Monster in 2023. I didn't realize when I was watching it that he'd also made the equally terrific and devastating Shoplifters back in 2018. After those two, I watched his first film, Maboroshi, 1995, also terrific, also devastating, and Still Walking from 2008, which was as close to a modern-day Ozu film as I've seen. Like Ozu, Kore-eda finds drama in the details of everyday life and tenuous connections of characters who, by nature, are growing apart. In Still Walking and Afterlife especially, Kore-eda, like Ozu, is gifted at stripping out the noise so we can focus on the signal, the smaller moments that make a life. Even in Afterlife, Kore-eda films the reenactments as if he were channeling Ozu. He employs a single static camera low to the ground, straight onto the actors who are symmetrically framed. One shot from an Afterlife reenactment could have been straight out of Tokyo Story. The camera's at eye level of a couple sitting on the floor eating. The shot is straight on, the key light is from the side, seeming to come from an open sliding door. The production and showing of these recreations takes up most of the last third of Afterlife. They're not intended to be word-for-word reenactments of the departed's memories, but close enough to stir up their emotions and make the memories fresh enough to stick with them forever, literally. In a way, these can be seen as Kore-eda's love letter to cinema. The best movies can either transport us to a place we've never been, or, as an Afterlife, a vehicle with which to relive our fondest memories of the experiences we've had. So, those are my thoughts on Afterlife. I'd give it a 10 out of 10. It's one of those movies that stays with you long after the credits roll, and the more you remember it, the more you remember liking it. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a like. If you enjoy my channel's content, feel free to subscribe. If you want to start a discussion or you have anything to say, drop a comment down below and I'll try to respond to everybody. Otherwise, thanks as always, and I'll see you next time.